In 2 games against BYU, he's rushed for 417 yards and 5 touchdowns to a soggy San Diego. The scoreboard is empty. Wouldn't stay that way. Tim Gutierrez, the fake to Falk, and it's Andre Maywell, the juggling catch. He hangs on, set up a touchdown, tied at 7. Then the Marshall plan is executed. 71 yards, his longest career run. 31-24 Aztecs. BYU comes back. They got a quarterback who can throw. Walsh, Steve Christensen, 63 yards later and no defenders around him. He's in the end zone. 38-31 Cougars after 3. 3 minutes to go. It's 45-31 Gutierrez to Keith Williams. What a throw, what a catch, 30 yards. It's 45-38. They get the ball back after an interception. Gutierrez to Will Tate, 8 yards. Aztecs down 1. They go for 2 and the victory. Would Falk get it? No, it's Gutierrez dropping back and dropping the ball. No points. Cougars win it. 45-44 in an absolute thrilling game. Of Walsh's 417 yards.
Beating the Seminoles before they take the field. Tied at 7 in the second. Lee Becton explodes for a 26-yard score, and the Irish take a 14-7 lead. To the fourth quarter, it's 24-17 Irish, and Jeff Burris, one of his 2 touchdown runs from short distance, 31-17. Noles do not die. Charlie Ward brings them back. Brian McGee is going to get a couple of mitts on the ball, but deflect it right into the waiting arms of Kes McCorvey. In the end zone, it's a 7-point game. After a defensive hold and a very short punt, Florida State takes over. No timeouts. Ward drives the field, gets to McCorvey at the 14. 1 play for the win, or at least a chance to set up the win. And Bobby said he'd go for 2 if they got it in the end zone on this play, but Charlie Ward was denied as Notre Dame sent 8 back in coverage against the 5 in the pattern for Florida State. Ken Alexander and company denied their comeback win. Absolutely. Notre Dame, number 1. They beat Florida State by 7 in a tremendously exciting game this afternoon in South Bend. What about J.J. Stokes? Could they get him the ball? Rob Walker in at quarterback for the injured Wayne Cook. Not there. Dan Lucas the pick and go into the end zone. 31-yard touchdown. Botched snap on the extra point. Walker 3 interceptions in this game. And Arizona State salted away with a time-consuming ground drive led by Mario Bates. 28 carries for a $152. And Arizona State beats UCLA by 6. Putting Southern Cal in very good position. Why? Well, earlier, Southern Cal taking on Washington. Napoleon Kaufman here, a 12-yard run, and the Huskies were up 10-7. But the Trojans answer right back. Rob Johnson swinging to Sean Walters. 2-yard score for Walters, who had 2 TDs, he said, on the day. In the second quarter, the Huskies were in some trouble as Deion Strother was working down the sidelines. That screen gets it to the 1. Now watch the next play. He'll take it up and over the top, part of his 117 yards total on the day. That was the winning score. The Trojans beat Washington by 5, 22-17. SC with a tie or a win next week over UCLA will go to the Rose Bowl. Why? Because Arizona, which was also in the 3-way first-place tie, let Cal score the last 24 points. Eric Zomalt, the interception at the end, to win it for the Bears in Berkeley. Also in conference, Oregon is eliminated from bowl contention as they lose to Stanford. These teams combined for 700. The normal starter had a jammed shoulder. Down 10-3, ditto to Thomas Lewis. Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week last week, a 28-yard score here, all tied at 10. John Cooper's Buckeyes break the tie. Bobby Hoying and Brett Powers, effective tandem at quarterback. Powers off the bench to lead a crucial scoring drive again. Here to Buster Tillman, 5 yards in the end zone. And the Buckeyes, well, they at least clinch a share of the Big Ten title and can get it outright if they beat Michigan. By the way, fans rushed the field after the game. Chemicals were sprayed, but no arrests, and fortunately, no injuries. Part of the rest of the conference, Penn State getting Mike Archie to do the damage on the ground, 134 yards, beating Illinois by 14. Tyrone Wheatley, 3 scores. Tamanga Biaka-Patuka, 2 scores. Michigan all over Minnesota, seen earlier on ESPN. Michigan State had a close one against Purdue, 1957. James Bostic busting into the secondary. Huge day. 41-yard score there. 21-7 Auburn at the half. Eric Zier trying to rally the troops. Down 21-7 in the third. His deflection intercepted by Chris Schelling, who is gone. Showing great speed, outracing the receivers. 73 yards, Auburn leads 28-7 against Coach Goff's team. Georgia would come back. Ziya threw a couple of touchdowns at 426 yards, but not enough, as Auburn goes to 10-0 in the Iron Bowl next week at Jordan-Hare to try for the perfect season. Florida beat South Carolina by 11. If Florida beats Vandy next week, they clinch the SEC East title. Eric Rett over 4,000 yards and passed Emmitt Smith on the all-time list. I mentioned Bama. They beat Mississippi State 36-25. Quarterback problems on both sides. David Palmer did play some quarterback for Alabama, but you see most of his damage as a receiver from Jay Barker. Ole Miss beat Northern Illinois 44-0, and Ole Miss's rush defense, which is so good, shut down LaShawn Johnson, who finishes the year with 1,976 yards, just a few shy of 2,000. Kentucky gets a late field goal from Nicky Nichols, kicking field goals today for the first time in his college career. How would the Canes do against the Scarlet Knights? First ever meeting between these two teams. Miami, of course, looking to keep their Orange Bowl unbeaten streak alive and move it to 56. Rutgers couldn't stop. The ground game of James Stewart here in the second. 49 yards for the score. Miami leads 7-3. Give it up for me, says Stewart. Later in the second, still 7-3. Ryan Collins roll in the pocket right and on the run. Put one up there. And let AC Tellison go up and get it. He does. Flag against Rutgers. Touchdown for Miami. But Miami could not put away the Scarlet Knights on this day, winning the game 31-17. Not too impressive, thus causing Dennis Erickson to say this after the game. I would assume Notre Dame's going to move up and Florida State will be number 2. They'll probably play again in Arizona. We'll talk more about that statement a little bit later on. As for Erickson's next game, it's against West Virginia in Morgantown. Mountaineers in Philadelphia today taking on Temple. Darren Studstill at quarterback to Ed Hill. 32 yards, 14-0 Nears in the third. More Mountaineer air show. Studstill and Hill one more time. Nice ring to it. 274 passing for Studstill, filling in for Jake Kelchner with the injured groin. Kelchner should be healthy to go in Morgantown next week against the Canes. West Virginia wins by 42. Dwayne Thomas, big day on the ground, 163 through the porous Syracuse run defense. And after the game, Virginia Tech voted to accept an Independence Bowl bid. Boston College shuts out Pitt. Pitt goes winless at home this year. First time that's happened since 1967. Glenn Foley throws for 360. The Eagles have won 7 straight. Next, going to South Bend to play Notre Dame. Virginia and Clemson as we go to the ACC. Simeon Willis in the air, picked off by Tyrone Simpson, but this typified a first half with 7 turnovers. Simpson gives it right back to Willis on the fumble. Dexter McLean, a cornerback on this team, started at quarterback today. He was a high school option quarterback. He ran for one and threw that one to Terry Smith, who became Clemson's all-time leading yardage receiver today. In Death Valley, Ken Hatfield with the heat on. It's a big win over Virginia. Not one at Clemson in their history. A 9-point win for the Tigers, who qualify for a bowl bid. North Carolina State at home, able to beat Maryland 44-21. The Wolfpack now, according to the scouts on hand, a front runner for the Hall of Fame Bowl. That's the 4th pick